Hello and welcome to another episode of the Trash Talk Podcast. I'm the channel that I have Sergej. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing fine myself, and today we're asking a really important question. Should you open source your software? The answer is yes. Next topic.
Yep.
Okay, no, it is genuinely a complicated question, and the real answer is it depends. And we're here to try to talk about the reasons of what it might depend on, and why you might want to or might not want to do that. Sergej.
So, preface, I just as you, leaning heavily towards just open sourcing your projects anyway. So, I might be slightly biased here, but let's dive into a couple of reasons why you might want to open source your projects. So, yeah.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, one reason would obviously be you're contributing to other people's software. You participate in a community.
Yes, other people can make use of your code.
Other people can make use of your code, and you can also, because of other people that have open sourced their projects, make use of their code. Which, honestly, probably 95% of the code that's in your project is open source by other people.
Nice.
It's the frameworks and the tools and everything you use to write your software.
I was going to say 95% of the code that I write is from Stack Overflow, but yeah.
No,
it's not
95%
actually true,
of what
but
actually runs.
Yeah.
What actually runs, yeah. Not what you write.
I get it.
So, contributing back to that community, in my opinion, is just a good thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, that is sort of the underlying point. I mean, obviously, it depends on who you in the scenario are, right? Because obviously, if you're, for example, a corporation, then it might make sense not to open source your stuff. Because, say, for example, you try to sell a piece of software, it's going to be a lot harder when everyone can just compile it themselves without having to pay for it.
That is true. Yeah, it's just true. Yeah, but there are business models that do work even if the product is open source, and that usually is done by offering a service of maintenance for that product for a cost, but having the product itself be free.
Yeah.
Or offering additional tools for easier management of that product for a price, but the product itself be free.
I mean, then of course, depending on what exactly the license is under which you publish it, but also open source isn't necessarily always one thing, then you can run into a situation that someone forks the project and reverse engineers the add-ons, and you still end up with the full product being sold for free or cheaper. Donations are also a great way to make money. It's not very consistent. I don't know how well that works, but I mean, all of our videos have been recorded with OBS. Our audio editing is done by Audacity, right? I'm pretty sure Audacity is also open source. OBS definitely is.
Yeah.
And, yes, this production makes a lot of use of open source software, right? I mean, I personally haven't contributed anything, neither in code nor in money, but that's sort of the idea, right? Where you can, and that does keep us afloat. Also, the cool thing from a user standpoint, right? If the person, the main driving force behind OBS, I don't even know who that would be, stops being interested, someone else would probably continue working on it, right? Even if they might have to fork it because of actual, I don't know how the permissions work there for pushing changes. Presumably, you can.
But the project itself would not die.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Open source projects.
And that's really, really cool.
Really can't die as long as people are interested in them. And granted, obviously, not just as users, but also from the programming side. But if anyone who can write code to the necessary degree likes using the project and has some problems with it, they might want to contribute a fix because that's just the easiest way to get a fix. And so then that once again profits everyone.
Instead of like complaining to the developers, hey, please fix this thing, just do it yourself and commit the fix.
Exactly. Which is the huge benefit of open source software, of course.
And fun fact, I actually did that recently. Like, I'm still in the process of committing it, getting it noticed by the relevant people. The fix, or like the thing I added, was like a really small feature for formatting strings inside Git. Like Git, the tool.
Okay.
Like I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it was like extending one functionality that was already there by like adding one option that was missing that I really wanted to have in there.
Fair enough.
I've compiled it locally myself. It works. I'm using it. Now I just try to get it submitted, because apparently submitting fixes and commits to those kinds of projects that are really big is not that easy.
Yeah, I think
you have to do a lot of email.
It's also one of those problems, right, where if a project becomes big enough, especially if it's not managed by a lot of people, but just like a very small amount of people, then a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, here, this, and that, and then someone has to actually check the code and has to like actually like accept it, and so that can be a bit of a problem. I think there should, in theory, be a possibility to do like a community voted kind of approach. I don't know if there's any like actual sites that allow for that, or like version control systems or whatever, where you could just submit and then like, you know, if enough people upvoted, it gets. I mean, I'm sure it's something that could be exploited in some ways, but in theory, something like this could make sense. I mean, even if you just had like a thumbs up and thumbs down for people's changes, and then the maintainer sees it, and like you can just check from the most upvoted rather than just from like the oldest or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you can sort of do that with GitHub, I think. Probably with GitLab as well.
Okay,
like at least the sorting by, I think.
I never used GitHub for like any project. I've only used it for like downloading stuff. I've never like actually contributed to a project or made a project over there. I've used GitLab only very limitedly and mostly for like small group projects rather than like entirely public ones. A lot of college stuff as well. So I don't really know that well, because for us it was always just like you just push your fix, right? And then that's that, right? And usually no one checks if what you did was correct or not. It just happens. You just hope that everyone checks their code sufficiently. Which actually works.
That's not sustainable.
Surprisingly well if you have like 5 people or something.
Yeah.
Usually if there were issues in the code, they weren't like introduced by new commits, but rather like they have been there since like that code was first written. We had a project once in college where we had to work with one of those layer models because that's how you're supposed to do it. And so Joe and I wrote like the IO layer. Mostly I think it does output, but and so everyone was like, "Oh yeah, I put the stuff in, and you got the wrong output. You must have made a mistake." And every single time we had to troubleshoot, and every single time it was in one of the other layers where someone turned some variables around or something, and we had to then like find the issue and fix it because everyone always said it was our fault because we were basically the last people to handle the input before it got printed out. And so there was, must have been your thing. It's like, it literally never was.
Yeah.
Granted, part of why our code worked reliably is because with that model, most of what we had to do was just literally like A equals A, B equals B, right? And just like pass through all the variables from like the function call to the output. There was a little bit of formatting where there were some tables and stuff like that where like you had to turn like an internal list or an array or something into like actually like a table with columns and rows and shit, and actually formatting that so that it actually looks somewhat nice. was not entirely trivial, but there's also...
I assume it's all done in like terminal?
No.
Or was it GUI?
Actually, no, it gives you... So you have a GUI where you enter all your data, and then it prints out either a Word document or a PDF.
Ah, I see.
Turns out, by the way, obviously you can convert Word documents to PDF, and if you construct a Word document, you can then just turn it into PDF. We obviously worked on PDF first, so that we then also had to write the Word document from scratch as well. But the PDF was better, so there's because the PDF that we made actually better formatting than the Word document that we were working with, so there was actually a benefit there. I still really like the PDF code that I wrote because it's actually not entirely trivial to like create like a dynamic table where an entry could have multiple rows, could have just one. You never know how many rows you have. You don't know if you need page breaks, right? And like getting all of that stuff to work perfectly, it's not like logically difficult necessarily, but like getting it all to 100% work is still a little fiddly, and it's really satisfying once you've managed it. But we're getting maybe a little bit off topic. Well, I'm getting a little bit off topic, as per usual.
Slightly. Yeah. Wait, what was the last point? Oh yeah, that you can contribute to it if you want something changed.
Yeah.
Right.
And obviously,
the negative of that, of course, is like if you are a project maintainer, for example, and someone submits a fix, it's like a feature rather, relatively well thought out, but you can like see that, hey, this might cause issues in the future with how the code is structured, with like other features that I am planning on including in this piece of software. It might be really, really hard to impossible to like say no to that merge request.
Yeah, it's also generally like having to sort through all of the requests in the first place. Having to go through the bug tracker and stuff like that, right? That's, I think, a lot of the actual work with maintaining a project is a lot more complicated when you're not the only person working on it. Now, conversely, of course, people can help by contributing code, and that can be useful to you, where maybe you had a bug that you couldn't figure out how to fix, or like you were thinking about for a while, and then someone comes along and just fixes it. So that's really nice. But I do think like the actual maintainer aspect does contain some amount of work, and especially if you are making, for example, a small personal project, it might not be worth it, just because other people might get use of it. It's like, just write your own version of it, it's not that complicated.
Yeah.
So I've never had any projects that were like complex enough, useful enough, or refined enough to really justify like putting them out somewhere. Most of the projects that I've written just for myself were like fairly hacked together and like very purpose built for like a very narrow purpose that I just needed to do at the moment. And so it didn't really make sense to publish it because either the use case was too specific to begin with, or it was maybe a little over optimized for how I was going to use it versus how other people would use it. And then generalizing out from there, refining my GUIs always look like shit, but which I don't think is a problem, because I would say they look functional.
Sure.
I mean, the buttons are labeled.
I mean, if it functions, it at least functions. You cannot take away that.
I've never been.
I mean, design, of course, is like a whole other skill set. That.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of whenever software tries to be more aesthetic, because it almost always, to me, makes it less functional. In terms of like, it's harder to find which button is which. You know, it's sometimes you need to now dig through more menus to find the option you're actually looking for, because they thought having too many buttons was ugly, right? You have less.
That's and that's like, of course, the difference between UX and UI.
Yeah, but it's like
that what you're describing as UI, like where people try to make it visually look nice, and the other part is UX, where you try to make it as usable as possible, while preferably also making it look nice.
Yeah, that's I mean, it's always when it's like, oh, we made everything look nicer, but also now you only have so many options on a page because like all the buttons are bigger, or there's like more stuff around them. And it's like, oh god.
Yeah.
I often just like the much simpler, oftentimes very like angular sort of things where, you don't have like rounded edges on every button and shit like that. It's like, no, I don't need that. It doesn't add anything.
Yes.
I also still use a very old Audacity theme because that's how it came when I first started using it, and then it updated at one point, and I think most of those were actually just aesthetic changes. I don't think it actually reduced usability that much. But I was just like, okay, I don't know where to find things, even if the positioning is not even that different. But I don't, like, those buttons are different, and I just went back to, like, the old...
Yeah.
Which luckily was still included. Dude, legacy skins. Huge. Love it. I don't like it when you update a program, it looks different, and you can't go back. I mean, unless you, like, actually downgrade the version, but then you don't have the functionality of the new version, which might also be desirable.
Yes. Yep. I feel that.
Oh yeah, OBS actually did it as well at one point where they updated, and some of the icons look different and whatnot, which, again, personal preference and particularly like them. But then also, you had the issue where certain elements that I had in my GUI, like, were partially cut off because everything was slightly bigger. And so you had to, like, resize, you had to resize windows and everything. And then when you went back to the old theme that I was using, everything just fit. So even if it doesn't inhibit the functionality, it still, like, wasn't as functional for me because of just space. I don't know why everything needs to be bigger.
I don't know. And I mean, I also generally don't mind if things are bigger.
Oh god, YouTube thumbnails are way too big, by the way.
Yes, that is like too big, but they were pretty small before that. If they were like just slightly bigger, that would have been good.
Also, I hate how, I think I said this before, how YouTube channel pages now have a limited number of videos in one row if you have the grid view. I think it limits it now to 4 or 5 in one row, where previously, the way I had it set was 6. And that no matter how much you zoom out, it just gets thinner and thinner, but it doesn't add more. Not a program, not open source.
It's so bad.
Not relevant. But I guess we should probably talk about security, right? Like...
yes, big point.
Security by obscurity, which is to say the idea that, well, you can't hack it if you don't know how the software works, which doesn't always hold true, versus, what is the other one called?
I don't know what it's called, but it's like if you have more eyes on this piece of software and a big chunk of those eyes are like, well, good-minded, or like, not good-minded, but like helpful, or try to help out and fix things, you will just end up with having way fewer security vulnerabilities, even if the source is open.
Yeah, so it ends up being that most people, turns out, aren't assholes, right? Most people actually are helpful. You might view humans very negatively if you watch the news, but it turns out most human beings actually not that terrible. And so, as a general tendency, most people, when they see a security vulnerability in your open source code, they will probably either fix it or send in like a bug report or something, rather than just try to exploit it. And so, by having enough eyeballs on it, your security holes actually get fixed rather than exploited. And now, obviously, there's still the caveat that obviously that only works if people update. And if an older version has a known security flaw, then obviously that could still be exploited for people that still run that older version, but there's only so much you can do.
Nothing you can really do. But that, as well, is also the case for closed source programs.
Yes, obviously, always keeping yourself up to date for security updates is generally good advice.
Yeah, because like, even if a security vulnerability gets fixed, and like, even if it's not disclosed immediately, but like after even say a year, a lot of industry just doesn't update.
Yeah.
So a lot of industry still just runs the vulnerable software. So nothing you can really do.
Do you have anything else to say about open sourcing projects?
Yes. Also in terms of security. This theory of open source being more secure only really works if you have a lot of eyeballs on that piece of software.
Right, that's fair.
If you don't, which is probably gonna be a lot of the case, like often the case if it's just your personal project or a project that's used by like 2 or 3 people, is that you are not gonna have a lot of eyeballs on it that can see or like understand that something has a security vulnerability. And if you are being targeted by someone, then they have like the perfect opportunity to read that code and find all the security vulnerabilities.
I will say though, security is only really relevant for things that already connect to networks. If it's like locally run software, then unless there's like something directly in that project that is harmful, they shouldn't really be able to exploit you having the project on your computer.
Oh, they certainly can. If you like, I mean, like if you download a virus that can't do stuff on its own, but exploits other programs to actually execute stuff, which is actually also rather common as well, because that's much harder to catch by an antivirus.
I mean,
than if you just do it off of your main process.
I suppose, but then there's the question of like, what's the point in trying to like hijack a very small project when you could go after something more people use, I guess, because
stuff that more people use usually has a lot of eyeballs on it and is patched really well.
Okay, but all of that only really makes sense if you're going after someone specific. I feel like this probably doesn't make sense. It's like a broader attack, right? Because most viruses will try to get as many people as possible. Or you try to specifically get into the Iranian nuclear program, in which case you have a bit of a different MO. Although Stuxnet still affected like a shit ton of computers.
Yes.
Which, I mean, was sort of the point, but they had an endgoal. But yeah, no.
And I'm not even gonna talk about like some researchers recently disclosing a vulnerability that affected like every single computer on Earth.
Oh, great.
By exploiting microcode in the processor.
Okay, when you say every single computer
to escalate, to escalate privileges from like ring 3 to ring -2.
There is no ring -2.
There is.
Oh wait, okay, so 0 is kernel, right? And then you do -1 if you want to do if you want to run like a VM that is running on ring 0, you have a -1 to be the actual kernel. I've never heard of -2.
And ring -2 is like the actual like stuff on the CPU. You have like full control of the CPU.
Okay, but I'm assuming that's still like just an x86 thing, though, right? That's not. So when you say every computer, you mean every x86 computer, which
almost every
is pretty much every desktop computer and most laptops still, but a lot of mobile devices, for example, are ARM-based. So.
And you could do that exploit on both Windows and Linux easily.
So because it's OS independent, or is it just that it works on both OSs? It should be OS independent, right? If it runs on the processor directly below the operating system.
No, it escapes from user land, from ring 3.
Right.
So like the exploit itself is coded for like an operating system, but they have 2 versions of it. One for Linux-based and one for Windows.
That is great news.
Which they run similarly, but like, different syscalls and all that to do the same thing.
Yes.
Not the topic though.
I feel like the takeaway from this is: should you open source your project? And the answer is basically if it's a medium-sized or larger project that you're not intending to make any money with through like traditional means of what is what I'm looking for? Money making, monetization. That's what I'm looking for. Traditional means of monetization. Then that is possibly a good idea if you can manage all of the requests that come with it. For your own personal small projects, it probably doesn't make too much sense. Although some small projects might still want to try it just for like getting input. Like if you're like getting started in programming, it might be interesting to like see what other people would do with it. But obviously, the chance that someone comes across in the first place is not that big.
Yeah. Or if you have if you participate in like a smaller community, like a game, for example, and you make a mod for that game, like open sourcing that is a good idea.
Oh yeah, game mods, definitely. It's weird, right? Because you do actually somewhat frequently encounter closed doors mods. Sometimes even like big time mods for a game will be closed doors, and it's like, this doesn't feel in the modding spirit. I mean, I get that there's like no one way to mod games, but game modding always felt like a very communal thing to me. And so it was the most natural thing to me when I saw, oh yeah, like this mod has a GitHub, here's the issue tracker, right? Like that felt very normal. And then when you see mods like, oh, there's like no GitHub, no nothing, and you just can download like the compiled file, it's like, this doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
I mean, again, right, like, there's nothing inherently bad about doing it. It just doesn't feel like how I see modding. But I think that probably brings us to our facts of the week.
Facts of the week. Yeah. So, I recently heard about the Kettle War, which was a military confrontation between the troops of the Holy Roman Empire and the Republic of the Seven Netherlands in the late 1700s. And it was named the Kettle War because the only shot fired during that war hit a soup kettle.
The kettle part sounds familiar, but I don't think I've ever heard of this, the Republic of the Seven Netherlands, which low-key sounds like a fantasy place. I mean, I know the Netherlands, right? Like, I live right next to them. But the Netherlands, I believe, is a federal republic, so it does make, well, they're actually a monarchy, but they are federal monarchy. That, I think. They have states, right? Like North Holland and South Holland, or was it West and East? There's two Hollands. Point being, right, like, so, yeah, I guess it makes sense, but I had never heard, I mean, obviously the Holy Roman Empire is also just, like, a bunch of small, like, German places, right? Like, I mean, Prussia was pretty big, but, like, a lot of the other ones that were in there, I think Prussia was in there, were, like, fairly small as well. And a map of the Holy Roman Empire is just, like, the wildest thing you will have seen all day, in case you haven't already, like, that's always good stuff. Just, like, how fractured it is. Like, maps of the Holy Roman Empire, like, internal maps, they're always really fractured. Holy Roman
I have not.
Empire. Do I have to put map? But I'll switch on images. Well, okay, that's just the Holy Roman Empire. Yeah, if you have, like, the internal maps are,
yeah.
They are something else. Just like...
Yeah, that's...
It's so fractured.
Quite something.
Like, all of them are like that. I mean, I think they're all from different time periods and whatnot. This one includes Italy as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's just... Okay, that one looks actually not that bad.
This is decent, yeah.
But there's always like these little spots and like really weird exclaves, and sometimes there are like really tiny places in between there that are actually like fully independent. Mm-hmm. Well, not fully independent from the empire, but like fully independent from anything surrounding. Yeah, no. Holy Roman Empire, wild stuff. But yeah, if you don't want to live in an empire, then how about you vote for your leaders? My fact of the week is about a voting system. Or rather, a way of determining the winner of a vote. So we all know about ranked choice voting, right? Where you list the candidates in order of preference, right? Number 1 for who you want to win, number 2 who you'll take, I guess if that person can't win, and blah, blah, blah. Well, the normal way of resolving that is with an instant runoff, right? You take the votes for everyone, and if no one gets more than 50%, you cut off the bottom candidate, and everyone who voted for that person gets a second favorite candidate. If that doesn't work, you cut off another candidate, so on and so forth, until someone has more than 50% of the vote, and then you have your winner. Mm-hmm. Well, it can happen that, for example, if you have 3 people that you're voting for, and someone is on the left, someone's on the right, and someone is in the center, then the person in the center might get like 30% of the vote, and the other 2 get like 35-ish for the first choice. But obviously, if you're on the left, your second choice will probably be the center candidate. If you're on the right, your second choice will probably be the center candidate. And so, you run into a situation where most people would have preferred someone besides the center candidate to win, despite the fact that the center candidate... No. Most people would have rather had the center candidate win than the other extreme, right? And so, if the center candidate is the lowest, then they would be eliminated, and the votes will be split between the left and the right, however those second choices ended up going out. Despite the fact that if you count all first and second choices together, they would have had the most.
Yeah.
And it seems kind of weird, right? This almost polarizes the system, obviously only if the center candidate actually is in third place. But in a polarized system, this can sometimes lead to the sort of compromise candidate not actually winning. And that seems like a problem. And so...
It does.
There are other ways of resolving how to do that. One of which is the Condorcet method, which basically pits up every candidate against one another in a head-to-head. And so each voter ranks the candidates in order of preference. And this says the voter may be allowed to rank candidates as equals and to express indifference between them. Candidates omitted by a voter may be treated as if voter ranked them at the bottom. So I think it's optional, right? Whether or not you can have ties. But the system works if you have ties, unlike instant runoff, which doesn't do that. And then for each pairing of candidates, count how many votes rank each candidate over the other candidate. Thus, each pairing will have 2 totals, the size of majority and the size of the minority. So, if I rank candidate A as my number 1 choice, and candidate B as my number 2, and candidate C as my number 3, and you have them the other way around, then we will both have one over the other and one tied, and with enough people. This can then almost always be resolved. Now, it is technically possible to get a Condorcet paradox in a sort of rock, paper, scissors type thing, where A beats B, B beats C, and C beats A. So you will need to build something into your system that either prevents it from happening or resolves that after the fact as a sort of tiebreaker. But this system can generally produce sort of less polarizing results, I guess, right? So, because you can get these sort of compromise candidates can much more easily win them. And so, my favorite of the week is just that this exists.
It is a cool system.
I'm not even sure if I actually prefer this over instant runoff, but definitely some form of ranked choice voting is definitely the best way of handling this. Although, with a caveat that there's also what we do, of course, which is, and by we, I mean Germany, which is proportional representation. At which point, it doesn't make sense to rank your votes because, well, it doesn't really make sense to rank your votes, because no matter who you vote for, with a bunch of asterisks, they do get that amount of seats proportionally. Now, of course, there are hurdles in the German system, like 5%, or alternatively 3 direct mandates, or alternatively representing a minority. But that obviously then obviates that makes it so that you don't really need ranked choice voting of any sort. Although we do still have direct mandates, which would still possibly benefit from a ranked choice system, whether it is Condorcet or instant runoff. Doesn't really matter. But yeah, that was just sort of this is, I think, more relevant to places like UK and the US, where you have first past the post systems with individual constituencies, right, where you have your congressional districts or your actually, I don't know right offhand what they call them in the UK, but your individual constituencies where you vote for one person within that area. That was my fact of the week, which I guess brings us
everything. Yes, nice.
To Squirtle. We just found something extremely interesting.
I don't know how we didn't find that earlier.
I don't know how long this has existed, right? But there's Squirtle XXL and Squirtle XL. So this is the biggest. There are 7-letter words in here, and there are 8 of them. And, yeah.
Interesting that the number of guesses is still the same that you get.
Well, yeah, so the explanation for that was that you also get more bonus guesses for correct words, right? Because there are more words that you can guess. So that should hopefully... I don't know if it actually is harder or not than regular Squirtle. In terms of, actually, chance of succeeding.
Well, it's not even regular Squirtle. It's... We already were doing, the bigger thing.
We were doing weekly before, which only had 8 guesses.
Yeah.
Regular Squirtle has 10. So, in that sense, this is more comparable to regular Squirtle. Whether this will be easier or harder, we'll see. In terms of, chance of winning. This will definitely be harder in terms of, amount of thinking. And much like regular Squirtle, we have less overlap. So, we're not going to get as many hints for, these types of squares. Also, I don't see the option for typing in hints. Normally, when I click on the square, it should allow me to type a guess, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is it just a weekly thing?
Oh.
Anyways.
I don't know. No. That's also a regular thing.
So yeah, give me a...
Weird.
Give me a 7-letter word.
I mean, Squirtle doesn't fit, so how about square?
Square is too short.
Squared.
Squared, yes. Well, no Q's. Shocker. No T's.
What a surprise.
We do have a U and an R in the first hint and output hints. Yeah, okay. You just can't before you enter the first guess. Which makes sense to a degree, I suppose.
I don't know why.
I guess you don't have a reason to put one in yet, because you have no information. But it still seems like a random restriction to put in.
Yeah.
Well, we know absolutely nothing about the second row.
It might be that people were initially confused about how to enter words in and try to click on stuff. So it might be
to avoid
because of that. Yeah.
Okay, we don't really have anything for any of these. We could try words that starts with R or A in the hopes that we just happen to hit the first letter. But we have pretty much nothing else to go off of. But we could also try to go for something that contains vowels that we haven't used, like O and I. Um.
So hard. Like I either undershoot or overshoot with words.
I mean, that is definitely also a problem. I mean, shorter words, making them longer is always like a thing, right? You can be like, well, I have boil, that's 4 letters. Boiler, that's 6. Boilers, that's 7. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But also, like, we already have S, we already have R, we already have E, right? So boil is cool because it has OI and then B and L, which we also haven't tried yet. But it doesn't really give me anything beyond that, right?
Oh, how about all right?
What all right?
Yes.
I mean, it still doesn't test for O, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Because I would like to test for both, or at the very least get some, I don't know, what are good consonants, like MN maybe? I mean, G definitely isn't bad, but
What, armory? Wait, no, that's yeah. Ah, shit.
What was I gonna say? Damn it! I have one that has a bunch of letters that I wanted, but it's 8. It's nominate.
How about pouring?
Okay, P-O... It's an awkward spot for the U because it can't be there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no real complaints. I was thinking maybe something with Omni would also work. Right, if you have... But then the question is what, right?
Yeah.
Pouring is not terrible. What about... It has 2 O's, monitor, but it does have M and N, which were, I think, like just by my instincts, are the best vowels that we still don't have. That might be wrong. Consonants, sorry. And O and I are the 2 vowels that we don't have yet. It tests for R in a spot that we haven't tried before. That's the best thing I can say about that R, but... Monetize was also too long. Oh, we haven't tested for T either, which is actually also like a decently good consonant, I think. I mean, I'm not gonna go out here and say that this is perfect, but
What trouble?
Trouble. There's an R thing, okay. Trouble. I mean, again, no I, but otherwise, I mean...
Oh, no, I tried too hard to get the U in.
I don't know why you're so obsessed with getting the U in, because neither the row nor the column can have a U.
Oh, wait, what? Why did I try to get the U?
I was trying to avoid the U, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just confused. Yeah, let's go for monitor or something.
Hey, I mean, I managed to hit the T. Actually, we have the I, the N, and the R in that row, which is not terrible. Also, the O hint is actually, we're not used to this recently, but like this hint is actually fairly valuable, as is this one, because they can only go into 3 other spots. As a matter of fact, oh no, wait, the O is on there. I thought I was gonna say only in 2 here, but no, that's there. You know, we only have 3 spots that those O's can go into. And this word contains R, I, and N. Also, this column contains R and U. I mean, once again, have very little to go off of, though. I guess we could try R, I, or N in this spot. Just to, like...
Moniker. Is it spelled with CK or a K?
Moniker?
Yeah.
That's how I would spell it. It does have... Oh, it tests for the O in both spots, as a matter of fact. And it tests for the N that I said. It has an I in it, which...
The I is not really well aligned, but...
Yeah, the I is suboptimal now that I look at it. We haven't tried K, which is obviously then good. The R is also not good.
Yeah.
Haven't tried C. We haven't tried L, as a matter of fact, which is probably one of the high value ones that we haven't tried yet. And I think the E works. How about monocle? I mean, it has 2 O's, which is... We always love doing that, but...
Yeah, suboptimal. We already have like so many O's that we tested for.
That's true. Well, I mean... Oh no, we run into the same problem. I was gonna suggest something that has no O's at all, but... I mean, I don't love the second O, you're right. Monarch has an H, right?
Yep.
Oh, both A's are impossible. Fuck me. Also, the R still sucks. I mean, if we do want to start with MON, which is actually no M's in the entire grid, which maybe is also then a terrible idea, actually.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, me neither. Okay, that S was a little just jacked on because I forgot how many letters we needed. I mean, it tests for the O and the I in spots that they both could reasonably be in both a row and a column. We haven't tested for T in that position. Actually, we have for the row. Okay, so this T is not possible, but this one is theoretically. We haven't tested for L yet. Okay, this T runs the same problem. So for the column, it's not very good. For the row, I think it works completely. Okay, how about boilers? That gets rid of the T's that I was complaining about.
But the R's.
Right, there can be. Yeah.
It's even worse. Even worse. How about honesty? Still, it still has the the T's, but
again, right? Like
I don't know.
The T in the row works. It's just in the column where it can't work. It has a Y, which we haven't tested yet. It has an N, which can go in the column, but not in the row in that spot. The O is still in a very good position. S's, I feel like we need to test more anyways. I mean, it is the best policy. How about we go with it?
Sure. Cool.
Well, no Y's. Maybe not that much of a shocker. Oh, Sergej, you never fixed the script, by the way.
Yes.
It blacked out the Z instead of the Y. Okay, we do have 3 letters now for the.
Wait, I think I fixed it at one point. I might have not sent you the fix yet, though. I will have to look.
I mean, maybe I also forgot.
Because I'm pretty sure I fixed this issue.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
We now have 3 letters for a bunch of words, which would be really cool if they were 5-letter words, but for 7-letter words, feels a little less impressive. Also, we once again have no positive information for the last row or column. So it boils down to, like, maybe it starts with an RU or with an A, depending on if we look at the row or column. And then I guess we do technically have things that we can go for, like try and end there,
it
right?
Definitely
like,
cannot start with an R.
Either.
Like, neither row or column can contain an R.
Oh, can contain an R, right? So this R.
Okay, but the second letter may be O.
I mean, yes. I mean, I guess let's try for second letter O again, because then we definitely know where the O goes.
Yeah.
You know, other things. Okay, the R can't go there. Okay. There's not that much restriction here, because I was going to say, right, if the R can't go there, and it can't go there, it's like, well, yeah, it can go there, it can go there, it can go there, it can go there, it can't go there, but, like, it can go still 4 to 7 places, which is still the majority.
Okay, contour. It contains an R, but
Is there no E at the end?
I think there is no E.
Okay, contour. The U can go there. In
the O, the second O is also not good.
Pretty bad. It almost would look better if it was content, wouldn't it?
Oh, I like that way more. Yes.
It's all for the views, baby. It's a joke because it's content. You know what? I'm starting to run out of patience. Let's do it.
That was one O, and the other one as well, but indirectly.
Yeah. It's also just generally a bunch of yellow.
Yes, I'm having a bit of information overload right now. I can't keep track of everything anymore.
I have some good guesses where N's go, but I don't think I can pin any of them down definitively. Because this row wants an N, so it might go there, right? This row wants an N, so it might go... Where did I put it? There. Because the column also needs one. But then again...
The other row also, yeah.
You are right, there's a lot of information here, but to be fair, this is 40 squares and the 5 5 is 25, right? So there's going to be a little more information, but it's not even twice as much.
A lot.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's what, 1.6 times the amount of information? The trick is to multiply by 4. Going from 100 to 160 is 1.6 times as much.
That is a neat trick. Yes.
Let's look at every row and column.
We have a couple hints on the T's, especially for the bottom row.
Okay, T cannot
an either
go...
or.
It could go there, or it could go in first, right? First and third.
Yeah.
I was gonna maybe go like row by row, column by column, look at every single like yellow, orange, and red hint, and just see if we can nail them down, right? Where this needs an A and a C. I don't think we have enough information for that. We'd nail down the O. This needs an N, an I, and an R. We already have a lot of places the N can't go, but there are still 1, 2, 3, 4 places that it can go. That's not really that useful. R, I think, is even less restricted. The I isn't particularly restricted either. We can have some guesses, but we don't have any definitive information. This row has nothing. This one needs an E and an T, which already has, and an N. N could positively go here, could positively go there, neutral there. So we have nothing. This needs an N, which could also go there. Not there, actually, but also there.
Yeah.
So there's still 2 places. This one needs a T, which you just said can go in one of those 2 places.
Yeah.
U and R in the first column. It's a little bit limited because we already have the O, but I think we have no more information about the U, really. Except, of course, it can't go to first. But, I mean, U-O would be stupid anyways. The R... We don't really have a lot of negative hints for R. We have a lot of positives, right? Like, you want an R in this row. I mean, it doesn't go in first either, but... That's about as... Well, it doesn't go there, obviously. And it doesn't go there. So there are 3 places that it can't go. 4 if you include the O, so there's actually only 3 places that it can go, but it's still a little too much. The C... Could go in first. It feels like it wants to go in first.
It's probably in the first. Yeah.
But we haven't tried much of anything else. This needs an O. It has an O. This needs an I, which could go literally anywhere. This has no information. This needs an E, which it has, and an S, which could go there, or there, or there, or there, just not in first. And this needs an N, which this and this both want 1, and this is neutral. Well, that was a great idea. So we want a C there, maybe. We want an R. Well, if we want to employ the same strategy for R, then the one place that affirmatively wants an R is this row.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it helps us. If we go for the row, then we want an A somewhere. Not a single column says it wants an A. Just this one doesn't. So, I guess the question then is there a word that starts with COR, contains neither an A nor an E, but does contain a U? How many R's in corrupt?
2.
Well, I have good news for you.
Let's go with corrupt.
I don't think, the bottom row wants a T. We never tried P. We're neutral on the U for as far as the row is concerned, but the column needs one. Both our positions work, and we want the CO. It's corrupt.
Hey!
We uncovered corruption! The worst part about this is that it helps us fairly little with the rest of the grid, because green hints aren't that useful. Yes, we have letters, which helps, but... and we have... we already knew about the O here, so that doesn't help at all.
Yeah.
We already knew that the row didn't want an R, and that the column did want an R, so that doesn't help. This column doesn't want an R, that's new. Maybe that's useful. This row and column don't want a U, which, the row we already knew, but the column is new. Column doesn't want a P, and row doesn't want a P, that's new. And then, hey, actually, this is very useful. The row wants a T. Especially because not here, not here, not here. One of the first 2 spots. So I'm fairly confident it's there. Because
Seems
CT...
likely.
I can't think of a word in English that starts with CT. That seems like some Polish shit. I know that's not actually how Polish works. It's usually Z's that they put places.
Yeah.
Well, CZ would totally be like a thing that Slavic languages would do, like the ones that use the Latin alphabet.
Yeah.
Okay, we know about the T. I don't think we had anything else for the A there, so okay. The second row, the one that we're actually working on now, has an R, which we knew it needed one, so now we place it. And we still know that it needs an N, and there's now one fewer spot that the N could go, so that's nice. How do we feel about a word starting with RN?
Unlikely.
So that limits it to this and that spot. Which is still 2. It worked for us before, so I'm gonna just put an I there tentatively. Yeah, the word rain comes to mind for something that has... Because... If
Raining.
Raining... It would work. It puts N's in the space that we would want them. It has for multiple I's. We know nothing about G. It's not that terrible. Because I was thinking, right? If the I here, which is where it would be convenient for both the row and column, is correct, then we need something to go between an R and an I.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think maybe in some circumstances could be an H, but I'm not sure if it's in the beginning of a word. So it most likely would be a vowel. And it can't be an O. I guess it could be a U. Oh no, it can't be a U. Cannot be a U. So it'd have to be an E or an A, both of which are perfectly plausible. Oh God, do we want to try raining? There's so many double letters in there, but if it could be right.
It really could be right, though. Let's go for it.
Oh. Okay, then. But rating is
railing.
Railing. Oh yeah, railing. I was like, rating is spelled differently. Yes, but railing like a handrail. Yeah, that makes sense. Or the other way of railing.
It's the act of putting rails down. Of course.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's what I was talking about.
Surely.
I mean, I was still doing rows. I completely neglected to even consider the column, by the way, earlier. Also, we have a new I in this row. We have more information about the row once again than the column, I think. Wait, S-E-N. We have an E. We don't have an S and an N yet. We need an N and an S in the column. We need an T and an I in the row. We actually have similar amounts of information for both. But the I can only go into one of two spaces. And most words that would end in IE do end in a Y, so it makes you think that the I goes there. N could go there, can't go there, could go there, might want to go there, probably wants to go there, maybe wants to go there, I don't know. I was so close to saying uptime, except that it totally doesn't work. Meanwhile, I said S, which can't go in first, could go in second, could go down there in fourth, or in sixth. The E cannot go in first either, could go in second, could theoretically go in fifth, although I do currently have an I there. Oh, wait, it's in last. That's where that goes. N could actually go in first. Huh. I feel like this second letter, if it goes between a U and a T, almost has to be N or P. Right? It has to be a prefix, either up or un.
Mm-hmm.
If it's un, then there's no reason for the N to be there. Which is worth noting, obviously. Did I actually have a strong argument before I put the I there? Oh, I didn't want it there and it can't be there. Okay, fair enough. Un. I was gonna say untwine. Entwine would work, but untwine I don't think does.
It could, very unlikely, but it could be that it is UTT.
Huh. But then it would have to almost end in ein, right? I-N-E. It would have to be like...
Yeah.
Because then it would have to look something like this, which I mean, theoretically, the N and the I could be switched, but that seems even less likely. I would argue. Actually, I don't know if that's less likely.
I mean, we could just try both. Like, it's not that much to brute force.
At wine, at sign, at trine, at pine, attain, at fine, at gine, at yine, at kine, at line, at sein, at xein, at sine, at vine, at bine, at nine. I don't think so. What did I say? Nigh. At vi, at tie, at pi, at atenai, atenai, atenai. All the vowels sound the same. Atsnai, atfnai, achnai, aknai, alnai, atlnai. Oh boy. I don't think it is double T, but it is worth considering that it could be. Uptwine. You know, on the hardly located part of the thread, it's uptwine. Uptrine. Uptain. I almost for a second my mind went to obtain, but that doesn't work because it's a U and an O. Uptfine, uptsign, uptwine. Okay, how about I just try. What did I say? Untwine?
Yeah.
It's a word and it's the correct word. I mean, entwine I had heard, right, with an E, but with a U I had not heard that. That is new to me. Also,
the
fun
reverse
fact,
action of entwine.
I mean, it makes sense, right? But we will have to also go for this row again later, because of this L. Now, I guess there is an off chance we can solve this one and still somehow slid in the L instead of the T. No, wait, that's it. No, it's not the right spot. It's right there. But then it would have to be correct for both words. That seems unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
So this wants a T, which it has. It wants another T, which it also has. Okay. So yeah, no, this is useless. Well, this wants nothing.
I just want to mention that there's not a lot of places where an H can go, and we need one in the grid.
Okay, wait, where did we try H? Okay, we tried it there, so it can't be in the first row, which is where we have most remaining spaces, and it can't go into that column. And would have had to try it somewhere else as well. Wait, if it's there, it would have to be there.
Yeah, that one's useless.
Which is untwine.
We can't really.
Yeah. Okay, so we just know that it can't be in the first row or the third column. I call it the third column. I know there's like those like small ones in between, but like this is the third like major column, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Fun fact. This one needs another N.
Another one? Oh, good spot.
And there's only 2 spots that it can go, and we only need 3 more letters. So, and we don't have an S in there yet either, which actually can only go in 2 spots as well. So we have 2 letters that we need for this column.
S can go in the second or fourth spot. The N can go
in the first or fourth.
In the first or fourth, yeah.
Could it literally be asinine, or does it have two S's?
I think it's only one S.
Because then it could literally be asinine.
It could be asinine.
Because N would have to be followed. Okay, so if we start with N, we need to have a vowel here, right? And then an S there, so it would have to be like sign or something like that, right? Like sign, right? That doesn't seem likely.
Mm-hmm.
The other option is basically this. I mean, I guess it could start with NS. No, it can't. So yeah, I think asinine is actually almost guaranteed, which is good. That doesn't really help us with what we were going for, though. If we had some letters for this column, we could limit it where the H goes. But the worst part is it could go there. GH is totally a thing.
Yeah.
Like ARGHEST. No, it can't be T or R, but yeah. R, I guess. I think it's a word. I think it's like a mythological creature. So we have some columns that could still go, but yes, obviously H in last row would be convenient. Also, the fact that we have only one unused... No, wait. No, we have no unused positive hints for either the last row or column. Literally none.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know what? I want to go over the other ones again. This N we have, this O we have, but I we have. Also I we also have. This one has none, yeah. Okay, great. Good talk. I already found an A for here. There's no hints we can use that would help us with this. Unless we can like somehow figure out the word in the first row, I guess. That's the only other thing that could give us one letter.
What vowels can we even use? We can use an A. We can use I.
Well, and Y. No, wait, actually, no Y's at all. Never mind. So A and I are the only ones, yeah. So, if that T is correct, which I don't actually think I have a particularly strong basis for, come to think of it. Why did I put that T there?
It's like it can only go in second or third, and
right, fair enough.
A word starting with CT is unlikely.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we basically need a vowel there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it could definitely be both. I mean, cat and sit are both words, plus obviously citrix. Mm-hmm. You know, like there are like, the A there I was fairly confident in, but that does not help all that much because.
No R's.
Yeah, I noticed. Cat. Fuck. Kithar. No, it just how do we feel about... No, S's, okay, cool. There's so many letters that can't be there. It should be able to limit it down very easily, right? Like, no S's, no U's, no R's, no H's, no E's, no P's.
There's probably like only or 3 words in the English language that fit this. But we're not computers and we don't have a dictionary to like regex through. So difficult.
Cat nail.
No N.
Cat mail.
Not
You
in
know,
that spot.
it's like chainmail for cats. Oh no, wait, no M's.
No M's in the entire grid.
I meant to say cat fail. You know, when your cat does something stupid. It's a cat fail.
Can't argue with that.
None of that is particularly helpful. I guess all I was basically saying is I'm kind of leaning towards maybe we should have an L in this grid. Especially, I kind of like L in this spot, maybe. Like AIL as an ending. Wait, cat's tail? Actually, come to think of it. Isn't that like a reed with a little like bushy brown thing at the top? Isn't that a cattail?
Oh, I don't know. It might be.
Oh no, never mind. No T's there.
Ah.
The whole point of why we had the T there is because it can't basically go anywhere else. I felt so smart for a second there.
Is there such a thing as a cat ball?
I mean, it sounds like it would be a ball for your cat, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, in German, I would not have any doubt that it is an actual word, but
obviously compound words,
English
right?
is, yeah.
But I mean, I feel like what we're ending up with is that a lot of our ideas end with L. I think it's the biggest takeaway here.
I think so, yeah.
Are there no restrictions for vowels in the column? No O's, okay, no O's.
In the yeah.
No O's.
But other than that,
this spot can't have an E or an I or an A. So this basically can't have a vowel except it's a U.
Yeah.
This spot can't have an O. Nor an E for that matter. But it's fairly open. Huh. Because between an L and a G, we need to have a vowel, right? And it can't be an A or an O in this spot. Well, it can't be an O at all, but This one also can't be A, this one can't be E or I or A. This can only be U if it's a vowel. This one can't be E, and obviously none of them can be O. So this would have to most likely be an A, E, I, or U. Laggers. People who lag. Laggers. I was gonna say loggers, people who log, which is definitely a word, but as in like logging as in wood. But obviously no O. Leggers as in people who leg it. As in to run away.
I find it kind of annoying that like ENT is not correct at the end.
Yeah, I mean, again, ERS will totally work.
Mm-hmm. And I guess we do need an S somewhere. I mean, technically we have like a spot where it likely is.
Wait, why do we need an S? Oh, we need an S at all, but we don't have any positive hints? No, wait, we do. We do have one for asinine, yeah.
We do. Yeah.
God, do we want to try laggers? I don't love that guess.
Which one do you want to try? Please type it out for me.
Whoops, there. I was using the L.
I mean, I don't have anything better, or anything at all, for that matter, so yeah, let's go for it. Wow. The L is confirmed now.
And the S's.
Yep.
Also, we now know for a fact that this column does not contain multiple G's. Because this only shows one G.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, did we already know that there was
also,
no R in there?
Also, this column does not have an A. Yes.
So I was actually stupid. Okay.
It's hard with so many hints.
It has no A's or O's. Oh my. Well, I mean, for this one we'd have to go for the row. And now we have every other letter. Assuming that the T and the A are correct, which is admittedly a big assumption.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how do we feel about cat ball again? I mean, okay, I will say, right, there's a good chance it's just not a word, which wouldn't harm us.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to try it? I don't have anything better. It's not a word.
Well, that solves that one. Cat bail, you know, for when you have to bail your cat out of jail. Because that definitely... Cat jail, as a matter of fact. Cat bail or cat jail, both of which are related terms. If you've ever needed to bail out a cat, you would know this. Damn it!
Which one do we try first?
I mean, we can definitely try them, but I somehow doubt their words.
I mean, how does a cat land in jail? Does a cat fail, right?
Okay, let's think about this a bit more strategically. What is the letter that can go between A and L? Because I said I and we said L, and is there anything else? Arl? Maybe.
No, I mean, doesn't help us anyway, because no R's.
Fair. So this basically has to be an L or an I. It feels like. Very heavily relying on the fact that asinine is correct, which obviously... or I guess the supposition that asinine is correct. Which obviously would be very stupid, or downright asinine to assume if it was wrong. This isn't... Is it just catfall?
Could be W.
Oh. I don't hate W. It is definitely worth considering, but I don't think it... What was I gonna say? Right, catfall? In terms of, like, we tried all of the cat ale ones. Do you want to try all of the cat all ones?
Mm-hmm.
Catfall. Which apparently is a word. Not just a word, it's the word. So catfail was actually shockingly close.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
you can definitely classify a catfall as a catfail.
Unless it's a specific term because cats always land on their feet. Okay, stupid question. Do we just want to try the ones that we know are correct? Just to make sure that we, like, don't go too low on a number of guesses? Or do we want to actually, like, try things that could be useful?
Let's do useful things. We still have enough guesses to survive one round. Because we, like, even if we fail this one, we get asinine next turn.
Fair. Okay, we have...
Assuming, of course, it is correct.
No O's or A's. I do not see a restriction on E's, at least not a general one. We can't have an E in the middle. Or, okay, we can't have an E in these two spots, but we could have an E there or there. No A's, O's, or U's, actually. So E and I are the only consonant that can be in here. And again, E can only be in two spots, if there is one.
Oh, I love how the bottom hints spell out RNG.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that's how they come up with boards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this could probably most likely be where the H goes, right? After one of the T's.
Yeah.
I was gonna say 30, but that's obviously too short. And no Y's. And 30 with IE doesn't work, presumably. On a related note, we do still need an L for the bottom row. Which could go literally anywhere. But it could go there.
Afraid.
Thistle.
Where?
Thistle.
Oh. I may try it.
As a matter of fact, what this or that do have to be an L?
Yeah. What even is that?
I was just about to tell you not to ask me. I don't know. Well, now we have to get asinine, right? Oh, you know what I just noticed?
What?
It wasn't railing.
We fell in it.
It was raising.
It was raising. Yeah.
Call that dumb
Good
luck.
thing we didn't go for that one.
Yeah.
Yep.
That would have been quite stupid.
Asinine. Yep.
So,
Oh.
yeah, and there has to be an L in there, right? So one of these two has to be an L. So it's either toeless, which would totally make sense. No, this one has an L already. I was gonna say, as a matter of fact, this column also needs an L, but no. I mean, is it just toeless, as in without toes?
Boy.
Like toeless shoes, right? Those are a thing. Whoops. Okay, it's toeless. Which also gave us another S. So now this one needs another E and is legless. Like, that had to be correct because it needed another E.
Yeah.
It's perfectly solvable. It doesn't seem, in terms of like number of tries versus number of correct guesses you have, it doesn't seem substantially harder than the regular one. In terms of having come up with words in your brain, a lot harder.
Yeah, a catfall is a rope used in hoisting the anchor to the cat head.
So it's a nautical term.
Yeah.
Okay, raising, we know. Untwine, we can infer. Toeless, we understand. Legless, we understand. Asinine, we know. Corrupt, we understand. And thistle, I would have to look up.
Thistle is the common name of a group of flowering plants characterized by leaves with sharp prickles on the margins.
Yeah, I assumed it was a plant because there's a carton house called Thistle Tea. So, I'm assuming... I wasn't sure if it was like thistle is what it's made out of, or if it's like some property of it. So, obviously, it could be called that for any number of reasons. But that's why thistle came to my mind. As a matter of fact, I think they might have a similar name in German.
Probably. Wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, distal is a plant with whatever edges you said. Right?
Distal. Yeah.
Did I spell it wrong? German. Yeah, German distal translates to English thistle. Ha! Figured that one out.
I love the definition on like this on Cambridge.org for distal. Dachliges Unkraut. Just that simple.
Also, to untwine means to disentangle or to separate the twisted strands of... Well, it doesn't specify of what, but I'm assuming of twine.
Probably.
It's literally the opposite of entwining. Who would have guessed?
Mm-hmm.
Damn!
Yes.
I enjoyed this, even if it was tough. And also, I think it's worth noting that it just is, in some ways, really different because of the kinds of words that you have to come up with being longer. I low-key would love it if there was like a variable length one, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, today it's 5x7, right? And you have to like have multiple words with different lengths.
That would be fun.
I do realize that the more I'm starting to brainstorm of how you could do variable lengths, the closer I get to a crossword. So there's that. But no, I mean, we did it.
If I have some free time, I could probably code something up for that. Should probably work. But I'd have to spend like a weekend to do that.
I mean, I'm not going to stop you, and I'm also not going to ask you to do it, right? So that's where I stand.
Yeah.
If you make it, I'm sure.
And right now, I'm kind of low on time.
I mean,
so probably not going to happen anytime soon.
Fair enough, right? No one asked for it.
Yep.
Like, watch your comment section be entirely full of people asking for it.
I would be amazed if we have a comment section at all.
Fair. Second topic, good questions to ask. If you were given $5 million to open a small museum, what kind of museum would you create?
$5 million. In terms of museums, that's like not that much money, I think, right?
I mean, what are the $5 million for? Are they just for exhibits, or do you also have to like actually get like the building? Because getting a museum-sized building, like even small museum-sized, could probably already set you back a couple million to begin with.
Yeah.
It would have to be something that people would want to see, because $5 million can't carry the operating costs for long. Once we have all of the initial investment, we basically need to be pretty much breaking even from the get-go. At the same time, low-key want something that appreciates in value, so that if I ever close down the museum, I actually still end up with a profit.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it depends on if we like see this as like a public museum type thing or like a private collection that's being exhibited. Stamps. Would people go to a stamp museum?
I mean, my immediate thought was analog computers. Because there have been computers even before electronics that were like actually even digital ones.
My brain immediately goes to how do you market it to people?
Nerds. I don't know.
Fair. I mean, I guess my target audience was stamp collectors, right? So it's not like there's that much more of like a huge general audience.
The other thought I had was camera lenses. Because they don't necessarily appreciate in value, but they are really, really stable in value.
Yeah, but then the question is...
you can buy a camera lens and like 10, 15 years later sell it for the exact same price that you bought it for.
Yeah, the question becomes like, would people go to a museum to look at just camera lenses specifically?
There are a lot of photographers out there, and there are some really high-end and also rare vintage lenses that are like...
I feel like the appeal would be if you could actually like play with them in some capacity, but then obviously that lens to break in.
Yeah, that's a bit dubious.
One thing that would definitely make sense, I'm not sure if it already exists, would be like mining or something like that. Because obviously I live right next door to where they used to mine and where they used to process mined goods and stuff like that. So just geographically...
I literally went to like a mining museum.
Yeah, I'm assuming there was already one. But like that would be like a logical thing. And it would be fairly easy. Like I'm pretty sure there are still some like minecarts that are just like laying somewhere in the forest. They're like probably no one owns, right? They just are still left there somewhere.
Yeah.
Like there is a lot of stuff that you could just like actually like scavenge together. Oh yeah, there was one time, I don't know the exact context behind it, but like all of a sudden there was like, it was very noisy outside, and it turned out someone was actually like got it for real, like just pushing a minecart down the street. They're obviously meant to go on rails, but they have like metal wheels.
Yes.
And also, it was probably not been greased in a while, but like, yep, someone was just pushing a minecart down the street, like, okay. So yeah,
could have brought with him like WD-40 or something.
I mean, yeah.
You should have been a good neighbor and like offered some.
I think most of the time was to be fair was metal scrapping on the stone, so it's probably not that helpful. And I mean, optimally, you would want something that people would be interested in, that I'm interested in, right? And that optimally, again, right, like remains interesting and preferably valuable, which is a lot of factors that need to align.
Oh, I think you could probably also do like a museum out of keyboards, because man, there are a lot of people out there that spend thousands of dollars on keyboards.
Well, I mean, it lends itself to having a gift shop.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you have a museum, you have to have a gift shop, right? Like, that's where you make all the money.
Mm-hmm.
Please exit through the gift shop. Yeah, I can't come up with anything specific right now. I mean, obviously, I guess coins would be an obvious thing, right? Where it's another thing where it's like a collector's item, like some of them would be inherently.
Yeah.
But again, that's just like a rare thing that there's gotta be some unique ideas that I'm just not coming up with. I mean, I guess something cool would be like, you know, like tabletop role playing or something like that, where it's like that's like a very specific thing, but
or you could even actually like play that. Like if you offer like really obscure ones, and like you offer play sessions with them.
That would be a cool thing for events, yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you could
again, like licensing might be difficult.
I don't know if you need licensing just to run the game. If you want like actually like
probably not to run it privately, but like run it as like an official event, that might be tough.
I mean, conventions do it all the time,
depending on the license, of course. Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, they also very commonly will play stuff like D&D 5e, which has an open license to a point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I think that would be the coolest idea that I could come up with. It's also something that would be fairly cheap, I think. I mean, then the question is like, how do you handle your exhibits? Because like just having closed books there is also not that exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And having people flip through them again destroys them over time. So you could probably do something like, and again, there's the right situation, right, where you scan them in, and then you have the book in the case, and then have like a touch screen where you can actually like flip through it. But obviously, it seems like a right nightmare as well. Although, of course, copyright oftentimes does have carve-outs for museums specifically, so it wouldn't be as hard as for other organizations. I think that's my answer, though. I mean, you could also have some, like, you know, some wacky dice and some, like, historical RPGs, and maybe if you can have some, like, signed by Gary Gygax or whatever, right? Like, just, like, here is a AD&D player's handbook that was signed by Gary Gygax himself or something like that, right? Like, that would just inherently be like, isn't that cool? And then again, right, if there's, I think a museum where you have built-in activities, which, I mean, some museums do, right? But like most museums are just like you walk through, maybe you get a tour, maybe you just look at things, and it's kind of boring. Yep. And like being able to be like, oh yeah, by the way, like once a day or once a week, we organize actual plays, like depending on like actual play sessions that you can join in, and we play like random obscure RPG systems, or even just like old versions of D&D, right? Like your 2 at AC 0 is 17. I've rolled my AC is 1, right? Roll a d20. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, no, there's some interesting stuff that could be done there, yeah. And obviously, the gifts are just, right, like, you sell dice, you sell modules, right?
Mm-hmm. Dice.
That would also be cool. I mean, I don't know about licensing again, but like selling, for example, like obscure old modules that you also have in your collection, but like with updated rules, for example, would be like a really logical thing. Again, licensing would be difficult, but
I mean, that would be less of a museum at that point.
It's just a gift shop. But yeah, no.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, listen, right? We're gonna have exhibits. That's the main thing.
Like the more you talk about this, the more it just seems like it's just like good old games, but for tabletop RPGs.
Okay, yes, but we also have exhibits, so we're technically museum.
Make them function with modern systems, and sell them.
Well, yes. No, but I do generally think that would be a cool thing, like a tabletop role playing museum.
Yeah, could be cool.
And you could always do the thing where, like, some museums, when they have like temporary exhibits, you could always do like here's just here's like for a couple of weeks we have a tabletop, like a general tabletop gaming thing. We have some board games, right? And then another time we have some video games, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, you could make it. You could expand it from just like tabletop role playing games to like board games in general. That would probably get more people.
Yeah, I think board game museums exist. The problem is, the more broad you go, the less specific you can go with individual things, right? So if I do board games in general, then I don't know how much RPG stuff I can have. Sergej?
You can do board games in general, but
your face is frozen.
Like, yeah, my camera probably overheated. But focus on board tabletop RPGs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that way.
That's like your main thing.
I like the idea of tabletop RPGs being like a focus again, right? Like the problem is you would have to have that either be in a place where there just are a lot of people, so that the chance of people, right? Like if you have it in like a huge city, like I mean even just Cologne, right? Which is like on an international scale not like a huge city, but like there's so many people coming through. I mean obviously the real estate is also more expensive, so yeah. But there's so many people coming through that the chance of you finding some people that are interested is a lot larger.
Yes.
Or you have to go to a place that's like meaningful, right? Like what is it, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin? Or like where Gen Con is and where Gary Gygax used to live, you know, like just the place, the D&D place.
Yeah. The D&D place, yeah.
So something like that. I don't know. I mean, Germany would probably also just generally not be the best place because a lot of those RPGs only existed in English.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would make more sense to do it in the English-speaking countries, specifically in the US, I think, would be the big one because that's where D&D, for example, is from. Which is arguably the most well-known one.
Yeah.
Warhammer is British, and I mean, obviously there are German ones as well, like Das Schwarze Auge. The Dark Eye, I believe they call it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, could be interesting. Which of your vices or bad habits would be the hardest to give up?
Probably going to bed way too late. Way too late.
I'm gonna say procrastination.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if that constitutes a habit. And I'm not entirely sure what the definition of vice is.
I mean, yeah, but think of vice as more. I mean, in the most harmful sense, probably more like a bad habit. In the most harmful sense, is probably something like an addiction. I think procrastination could be seen as a habit. I mean, your bad sleep schedule isn't exactly a habit either, right? So I think that's not necessarily. And I feel like bad sleep schedule seems easy enough to fix.
Yes.
But I guess it's also like a personal thing, obviously.
Yeah, it seems hard to maintain that fixed sleep schedule, though.
That is true.
That's like the problem I have. Like I can fix it in like a day or two, but keeping it for more than like 3 or 4 days at a time is.
I think it also helps when
hard.
you have like things that happen at fixed times in the day.
You would think that, but
yes, I would.
That hasn't stopped me.
Okay. Yeah, I think procrastination is probably like the worst bad habit that I have in terms of. Because I mean, I guess you could argue that coffee is a vice, right? Like because it is technically addictive, and I do think I am to some degree physically addicted to coffee.
Yeah.
In that, if I go a couple days without, I do notice it, but like I know I can give it up, right? I have done it once, basically just to show that I can. I feel like it's good to know where you stand, right?
It is, yeah.
And so I could give up coffee. Like the first week would not be that pleasant because I mostly would be a lot more tired, but afterwards I would be back to normal pretty quickly. I don't want to give it up, but I could. Procrastination is more a character flaw than anything else, right? And while there are things you can do to alleviate it to some degree, unless you're constantly focusing on not procrastinating, it just happens. And it's sometimes hard to force yourself.
And even if you are focusing, yeah, sometimes you just don't have the energy to like actually force yourself to do stuff.
Okay, you know what? Let's
you don't have the power of will.
Yeah. Let's do 2 more and then move on. What really needs to be modernized? Any ideas?
Filing taxes.
Yeah, I was gonna say pretty much anything run by the government. Any government services generally. I mean, it's wild how little you can do online.
Yep.
I mean, I get that there's like some things about like authentication and whatnot, and they are getting a little bit better at it. But like, for fuck's sake, just look at Estonia. Right? Also, like, government agencies not talking to each other is also another thing where like, why do you not have central databases for everything? Right? Like, why do I need to send things to multiple government agencies that do the same thing? Or like the same thing to multiple agencies or like services? Or like, why is that? Why? I feel like so many more things, mostly for governments, but also certain other things like utilities, right? Like your power company and whatnot. There should be like central database for some of those things. Where like every time you switch to a new power company, you have to like send the old one, like your numbers. I mean, I guess that makes some degree of sense if you didn't. I guess you do need the numbers for your meter from exactly when it ended to. I don't know. There are certain things that really could be better handled. I feel like also the fact that certain things are just certain like insurance or again utilities, where those are some of those things where you have to like send a letter to both the company and the government, and it's like, why can't one of them automatically forward to the other if both need it anyways, right?
Yeah,
there are a lot of those sort of things. And I think, again, a lot of central databases would be very useful. I mean, I know that it always depends on what you're talking about. I mean, obviously, there's privacy concerns, right? Like data security stuff. But there are a lot of things that I feel like could easily be handled in databases that just are handled in, like, on paper somewhere. And you have to, like, send 5 letters to different places just to make sure that it gets changed or whatever. Like, deaths and name changes should be, like, fairly trivial things. In terms of like, right, like, if like, if someone dies, you know how many different things you have to cancel? But if you get married or something and you have to change your name, or you want to change your name, and then you know how many places you have to like send mail to like be like, oh, by the way, new name, or if you move, new address. Like, I feel like there should be. Yeah. I mean, okay, central register for addresses is one of those things where obviously you get to like who has access to those. What about stalkers? I know there's like concern sometimes, although realistically, actually Germany's pretty good at that. America is like just go to white pages, has everyone's address and phone number. Actually, but the German white pages also have phone numbers. I don't think they have addresses though. But yeah, no, like just some of those things where it's like I can't believe just to like how many places you sometimes have to communicate with just for like fairly simple things. But yeah. Oh yeah, did I mention Estonia? I wanted to mention Estonia. Estonia has like completely digitized their government, and they actually offer that as a service. Like they actually like help other governments do it. Just I don't know if anyone is taking them up on it, and definitely not a lot of them. So you know that's.
Yeah, I mean that's really great. I didn't know that second part.
Yes, although I think their systems are very much built around the fact that Estonia is a fairly small country, and some of those might need to be adapted quite a bit to work for larger countries. So it's unclear how generally applicable that would be, but yeah.
I mean, good on them. That seems really nice.
Yeah, I thought so too when I heard about it, and I have never heard of anyone else like actually like try to adopt the system. Then again, depending on what country is trying to adopt it, you probably wouldn't hear of it. So, yeah. Anything else that we want to have modernized? When?
Not really anything that I can think of.
When was the last time you had more than 9 hours of sleep?
Like last week sometime. I don't know.
Yeah, I think for me it might have literally been last night or the night before or something. I've had a couple nights recently where I went to bed comparatively early for my own standards, and I still got up around the same time, so I ended up sleeping like 9 to 10 hours. I think at least twice this week, so yeah. I thought for you that might be a bit more difficult with your weird sleep schedule, but...
Not necessarily, no.
Well, okay, then that brings us to
I sleep at different times, so that doesn't mean I sleep less.
I mean, that's good, right? Like that... The times aren't really... I mean, in theory, regular is better, and also aligning with the daylight is better for circadian rhythm and blah, 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 but like, at the end of the day, at least getting a consistent amount is really the most important thing, I believe. Which brings us to our final segment.
Yeah.
Songs of the week. Sergej, what is your song of the week?
So wait. So for the first time, probably ever, I have thought about like what the topic is and what song could fit it. So my song of the week is, Whirl. I think even I had this song like a few years ago, like 2 or 3. But it's been so long, I don't think I need to justify having it again. The song is world.execute, parentheses open, me, parentheses close, semicolon, by Millie.
It definitely seems thematically fitting.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't love it just from this, but I also don't hate it, so that's my usual reaction to your songs.
Yeah. But yeah, this one's been in like my top, I don't know, 10 songs probably for like a long time now.
Okay.
I really do like this.
Well, I'm not sure if I like my song of the week quite as much as you like yours, but my song of the week is The Quest for the Hammer of Glory by Glory Hammer.
Yeah, I do like it. I mean, you cannot really go wrong with Glory Hammer.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like
turns out Glory Hammer not that well known.
Really?
Huh. I mean, I'm sure, like in metal circles, and especially like power metal circles, they're probably so well known. But yeah, Glory Hammer, and especially, I mean, I feel like Angus Beck 5 is probably the song that people know of theirs. I think it's from the same album as well, but I think they have a lot of really good songs, and yeah, I mean, this is just the one. I was listening to some Glory Hammer earlier, and I was like, yeah, Glory Hammer, that, and this is the one that I happened to pick out as a song of the week.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I had some Glory Hammer as well at one point.
It's very possible.
As my song of the week.
I mean, they make good music.
They do, yeah. That is true.
I love how
they had.
I love it. Basically, sounds like
episode 278.
Of course, you know exactly when. What song was it? What song was it?
I cannot tell from the thumbnail.
Oh, you just... Okay, fair enough.
I don't know.
278. That's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
278. Well, I mean, I just realized if I play it, you know what? Fuck it.
It's a bit loud.
I don't think I knew this one.
One.
That's newer, right?
Good question. I'm not too deep into like knowing Glory Hammer songs, but whenever I come across a song, I generally do like them.
Yeah, I mean, I also love how it sometimes feels like they're just singing about the D&D campaign.
Yeah,
because, like, everyone has their own character, and they're always like the characters are very like deeply involved with it, and it feels like they're telling like a somewhat cohesive story. All the places they mentioned, by the way, are very much real and very much in Scotland. So, which is why they sound like fantasy place names. No, but like, you know, like Dundee, Fife, Inverness, right? Like those are all places in Scotland. Anyways, yeah, Glory Hammer. Check him out.
Yeah.
I'll see if I fix the audio levels in post, but probably not. We'll see. If you enjoyed some of the Trash Talk podcast, don't forget to leave it a like. If you want to see more episodes like this, subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to say something, just leave a comment or just Discord links description below. Sergej.
That's it.
That's it.